podcast where we decode international relations from basics to intricacies of geopolitics. I'm your host Archa, and today I'm here with Dr. Manan Dwivedi sir. He is an assistant professor at Indian Institute of Public Administration. And sir, we will be discussing on the ongoing conflicts. Sir, we will be discussing about the ongoing conflicts in Middle East, exploring geopolitical dynamics, and also the role of global powers and what these developments mean for global and regional development, and also the international stability is that question. So, sir will help us to unpack the key issues and provide deeper insight into what is happening in the world. So, let's start with your introduction. Can you give us your background and just tell us what is happening in the world right now?
Definitely, it's a very good idea, Archa. The idea is that there has been a kind of a debate, or there has been a kind of a directive which has been going on in the global politics. That is, one fence on one side on the fence tells us that America is the hegemon, United States of America is a unilateral power, and they are the arm twisters as far as the Asiatic and the Oriental space is concerned. The second argument says that Americans are the philanthropists, which is a purely American bred idea. So they see that they are do-gooders and they want to help countries in a post-conflict times. So these two ideas and these two arguments, they happen to go together. Now in that context, if you look at American foreign policy, we cannot deny, as far as West Asia is concerned, we cannot deny the oil factor or we cannot deny the energy factor, but apart from that, other factors such as ideological themes and other factors such as BOP, that is balance of power themes, they also are lying behind the American foreign policy and diplomacy, which has its different ramifications. And last point I would like to add as an answer to a question is that there are two streams of thought, both parliamentarily and also theoretically in United States of America, where one group of people contend that there is an isolationist trend of American foreign policy, wherein I would like to take us back to the American Revolution and the American independence after Cornwallis was defeated in the Battle of Saratoga in 1781. There the Americans said that they are going to be completely disentangled from the European continent. And once they become powerful, once their castle has become powerful enough and potent enough, then they will superimpose themselves upon the world. Now that is the idea which is getting a repetition in President Trump's dialectic also. Because why did Trump come? Despite his whimsical nature, despite his idiosyncrasies, and the uncertitude, I am using a difficult word. So the idea is that still the Americans realized that they have to close their borders once again for a second time after the 1780s and 90s, so that when the MAGA doctrine runs at large in the American domestic firmament, that is the Make America Great Again doctrine, then only the Americans will start reimposing and intervening in the international affairs, whose example we have seen in the Ukraine-Russia war and also in the context of the Hamas-Gaza conflict, and now obviously we are talking about the Iran conflict and how that pans out. That is still to be seen, as we have reached the 12th day of the conflict and no denouement, no negotiation or no regime change seems to be in the offing. That is how I would look at it.
So sir, in the context of this conflict happening, how do you interpret the current tensions between US and Iran? Is it completely based on ideology, or is it America playing a new role in Middle East?
I would personally contend that it is definitely an ideological conflict, and it is also a kind of an economic diplomacy conflict, which happened to be the twin percepts of the clash. or it's a kind of a civilizational clash between the West, exemplified by America, and the Orient. If you go into the history, then I'm taken back to a particular literature exchange between Prince Leonidas, King Leonidas, who was the head of the Spartan nation, and he was militating against Emperor Xerxes from Persia. Persia meant the Iranian Empire. So, the larger force and the larger marauding part of Iran was pitted against only 300 soldiers from Sparta, where King Leonidas went on to contend that let the lightning come and hit us. Let you hit us with your latest modernized weapons. But still, we are going to fight till the end, and we will not let you get inside into the territory of the Greek polis, including the Menians, including the Spartans and the Athenians, and Lacedaemonians, who were the primary city-states in the Greek civilization. So I personally feel that there happens to be a civilizational clash also, which is ideological in nature, which is civilizational in nature, but it has been very much supported by the oil clash, by the matrices of economic diplomacy between Iran and America. That is how I would look at it, Archa.
So it's not just Iran and America that is in the conflict right now. One of the biggest player in this ongoing conflict is Israel. So how do you explain the strategic perspective of US and Israel relation?
As far as the US and Israel are concerned, I think the Americans have been the prompters. They have been the sponsors of the regime in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. And if you take a broader look at what is happening in West Asia, then the Indian foreign policy before 1991, we supported the Palestine right for a separate statehood. But if you look at the present regime of Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi, we have declared that India is completely with United Nations. We are completely with the larger committee of nations in the entire international system, where we want that there has to be a two-nation solution to the Israel-Palestine problem. So keeping that in view, India has supported both Israel and Palestine. And one should not be very idealistic in one's approach to West Asia, because we need to get our oil from Iran. We need to get our oil from Saudi Arabia. We need to get our energy resources from America and also from Russia. So that is a very strict tightrope walk which the Rashina Hill denomination has done, which keeps India in lesser lurch as compared to other Gulf countries and other countries like South Korea, Japan, and Southeast Asian countries, which are also very much dependent upon the West Asian oil supplies.
So, in your view, how does evolving relationship with the United States and Israel affect the balance of balance of power in the Middle East?
I think the balance of power is that the Americans and the Indians, they came together for the Abraham Accords, they came together for the I2U2 Accords, and also something known as IMEC, where the India Middle East Economic Corridor was also introduced as a kind of a solution to the energy crisis for countries like India. So I personally feel that as far as West Asia is concerned, India has done very promisingly well. And it might come as a surprise to the Indian audiences. But President Trump, since his first regime in 2017 and 16, that is Trump 1.0, he has always gone on to say in his releases, press snippets, and also in the national security strategy, that India should play a greater role as far as conflict resolution and war resolution in West Asia and in other parts of the world is concerned. That is how I would look at it.
So, would you say this conflict is extended by the Iran's nuclear program? This issue shaping all this crisis is happening actually because of the Iranian nuclear program?
very true. And there was the Iranian head of state in 2015. I would like to quote, that is Hassan Rouhani. He went on to contend that if you remove the sanctions, we are going to sign JEPOA with America and with the P plus 5 countries in Europe. JEPOA means Joint Comprehensive Organization of Parties, wherein the Iranians agreed that they are all nuclear ministrations. If they can be called as ministrations, they are peaceful in nature, and they are not going to make a nuclear bomb out of the entire nuclear centrifuge and enrichment cycle as far as the Iranian nuclear installations are concerned. So I think nuclear issue has been one of the major wrangling issues between US and Iran, wherein if you go back to the history, if you go back to the 1990s, one of the major concerns was the Pokhran 2 blast in 1998, where India had to take recourse to talks between Jaswant Singh, our foreign minister, honorable foreign minister, and Stuart Talbot, who was their deputy secretary of state, where India exploded the nuclear bomb for a second time in Pokhran in 1998. There also we got a lot of criticism from America, and I think it is the same spate of recriminations which one can associate with Iran. That is how I would look at it.
So, with this ongoing conflict, there are so many problems with the energy route as well, like the Strait of Hormuz. So, how if the conflicts keeps on continuing, how will it affect the global economy?
Definitely, it is a very pertinent question, Archa, that we should look into the entire theme as not being contained in West Asia or in Middle East only. It is a global conflict now. Because if you look at the current snippets which are told by my friends at IITA and by my family members at my house, that certain restaurants and the hotel hospitality industry has been badly impacted already in India, in Bangalore and in some places, and some commercial stations in Delhi. So though India, but still I would like to say that India has already done the diversification of the energy basket. If I give you some data, then 1.6% of the energy or the oil and natural gas we are getting from Venezuela at the behest of President Trump after the regime change of Maduro. If they will look into that. And around 44% of the oil is coming from Russia, and another cache is coming from other countries in Middle East and America also. So we can look at it that way, that when the President Donald Trump threatened our Naisina Hill and New Delhi, then how do we go about the entire trade of oil? Then India balanced between American oil and the Russian oil, and it was a great, appreciable, and celebratory tightrope walk which Jaishankar Saab, India's Minister of External Affairs, was able to do. And I think if you go by the data, if you go by the factual response, we still have 45 days of oil and natural gas supplies. But I personally feel that within a week or 10 days, this war of attrition, this missile barrage from Iran and air defense from Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, and the American assassination of the topmost leaders in Iran, that will come to an end within 10 days. And to end it all, I would say that President Donald Trump has also given a tweet, and in fact not even a tweet, he has talked about it in the form of a press conference, that the war is going to an end, though the revolutionary guards in Iran are saying that you started the war, Americans, but we are going to end it. So that kind of a dialectic continues.
So you are saying that the war will end within 10 days, that we can...
I am saying that the war would end in 10 days, so that we are human beings, we are not warriors, we are not soldiers, but for the betterment of the nation, for the convenience of the poor class of the country and middle class like me and you, Archa, we need a very steady supply of power, electricity and energy, which Prime Minister Modi has already ascertained for us. That is what.
Do you think other nations nations will join in a diplomatic dialogue with US and Iran to end this war? Nations like India, for example, will join in a diplomatic dialogue to negotiate or end this war?
Definitely, India should take up a lead, and Vladimir Putin has talked to Donald Trump on telephone just a couple of days back, and he has gone on to say that you please lift our sanctions, oil sanctions and other banking and fiduciary sanctions, then we can have more of a close talk with you, more of a clearer and something which is a heart-to-heart talk with you. So I think that kind of an overture from the part of the Vladimir Putin can be entertained by Donald Trump. But I would like to add a rider here. As it was propagated by the American State Department and the Israel's MOFA, that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, that the key war aim, the key military objective of of Israel and US happens to be that of regime change. Now they have assassinated Ali Khomeini and they have assassinated 30 to 40 topmost leaders. But in place, as we all know, we have been reading and writing about it, that Iran has a hierarchical structure that even if 4 top bosses are removed or assassinated by the Americans and the Israelis, they can have a new structure in place in a quick time, in a jiffy. And apart from that, I would like to say that the Gen Z, the Gen Z as we call it, that kind of a rebellion in Iran is not very impactful. And the Americans have been able to stoke some kind of disgruntlement among the campuses, but that is not strong enough. That is not impactful enough to really bring about a regime change in Iran. That is where we can say that America has failed. That is where Iran and Israel has failed. But let's see, if they are willing to come with boots on ground, then it will be a completely different ball game altogether. Archa. That's what.
So, sir, how do you conclude this discussion? What are your end remarks? And how do you conclude this discussion?
Definitely, Archa, thanks for calling me. The idea is that, war is not good. Despite all the gumbo talk which we have been doing, Brayo and everything which we have been doing, the general idea is that, it is having a negative repercussion on the economic part of the entire globe. It is not only confined to West Asia, but it has its ramification for countries like India, Japan, South Korea. And if you look at the share markets, because though we are not capitalists in India, sitting in India we are not capitalists, but still, money matters a lot. Capital and resources support our families, they support our national markets. So, there was a fluctuation in Japan's Nikkei and Kopsa in South Korea, and even the New York Stock Exchange, which has somehow dwindled down to some sort of a normalcy. So I think even we should be hopeful, because President Donald Trump has given a statement, though he's all about rhetoric and theatricals, which we don't deny at all, that the war is going to end in a week. That is what he has said, and we are not going to take it long. But the Iranian strategy happens to be obverse of what President Trump is saying. The Iranian strategy is to drag the log as long as possible, but let us not forget that the 18,000 Shaheed drones strength which Iran has will dwindle in the face of the Israeli and American outage. That is how I would look at it.
So, thank you so much for joining us, and that was a very insightful discussion. I hope everyone got something new from this discussion. And with that, we will conclude our session. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Archa. Thanks a lot.